Hello, I'm Lila, and I'm going to be baking a pie and giving you some interesting information about apples and everything to do with them. Apples originally found in America were crab apples, sour, almost inedible apples, but were delicious in jams and older pies. The apples we see in stores and on orchards now were crossbred with other apples from Romans and Greeks to become what they are today. Apple pie was not what it is now. The people of the time often used the sugars and the fruits to add sweetness to the pie. Fruits they used were figs, raisins, pears, and saffron to give the apple pie more interesting textures and flavors. The apple industry has greatly changed since when it started. The U.S. is the second biggest producer of apples right after China. We have 7,500 apple producers who grow 240 million bushels of apples each year. We have 200 apple varieties. The most apple producing states are Washington, New York, Michigan, Pennsylvania, California, Virginia, North Carolina, Oregon, Ohio, and Idaho. Apples are also important in many religious stories. Often we see apples represented as fertility, abundance, or peace. Specifically in the Bible, apples represent evil or self-consciousness. They might also represent death. Apples in the Middle East have a myth that if you send an apple to a lover, they will reciprocate your love. Of course, there's also the whole debacle with the Trojan War involving an apple. At a wedding, 3 goddesses, Athena, Aphrodite, and Hera, believed they were the most beautiful and asked Paris, the prettiest mortal man, a son of the king of Troy, to give one of them the golden apple, signifying they are the most beautiful. Aphrodite promises Paris she will get Helen, the prettiest mortal woman, to fall in love with him, and so Paris gives the apple to Aphrodite, and then the Trojan War happens. Now I'm going to read you a poem about baking an apple pie by Mark Vincent. To bake an apple pie. The day turns dark, the wind blows cold, foreboding is the sky. I think I'll stay indoors today and bake an apple pie. Some flour and a pinch of salt combined with butter sweet will form a flaky pastry crust to hold this fragrant treat. I'll slice 4 Granny Smiths, 3 Braeburns, and a John Gold for just the perfect sweetness with a tartness that is bold. Add in a scoop of sugar and a touch of cinnamon, and pour it in the pastry shell. You'll see how it's done. A top crust fluted round the edge to seal the goodness in, then slide it in an oven that's stoked up as hot as sin. Aromas start to fill the air, anticipations grow, and just before the buzzer rings, I see it starts to snow. Despite the dark and gloomy storm that's brewing all around, we're warm and happy here inside. The flaky crust is browned. There's nothing better on a night when darkness fills the sky than ice cream served atop a slice of steaming apple pie. Now I'm going to tell you all about the ingredients that I used while baking my apple pie. For the crust, I used salt, flour, water, and cinnamon. I wanted my crust to have some nice flavor, and I decided that cinnamon and sugar would be a good add to the list. And for my filling, I used Granny Smith apples. I used 3 because the pie crust bowl that I was using wasn't very big and was very shallow, so I could only fit 3 Granny Smith apples all cut up in there. The recipe I called for said to use 5 or 6, but I didn't have a big pie bowl, so I did not. I also used cinnamon, sugar, brown sugar, cornstarch, clover, salt, and water. Here you can see that my apples are in the pie sauce and waiting for them to get nice and warm and soft so they absorb all of the sauce flavor and taste and texture. And now you can see me scooping the pie filling into the pie crust that I laid in the tin already. Excuse me. I am making sure that I don't have too much pie filling like sauce in the pie crust, because then it'll get too soggy and the bottom will not cook correctly. So I'm shaking it, making sure I get all that off, and putting just the apples and a little bit of sauce in the pie. I had extra dough, so I cut it and I put it on top to make that nice cross top. And then this is how the pie turned out after I had a piece already. And I hope you enjoyed my video on apple pie. Thank you.